Hi everybody, good morning, and welcome to week 3 in our Comm 102 class. So this week, there's a lot of little assignments. There's none that are too big, just a lot of different ones. So I hope this video will help kind of outline for you. I'd recommend getting started early this week, because it is a little heavier week than the previous two have been. So we're going to jump right in here. Basically, there's 2 goals to this week. The first one is about sources. So when you give a speech, it's really important for your credibility that you are not just sharing your opinions, but you're using research to back up your opinions or your information or whatever you're using. So part of it's going to be how you find sources and make sure they're quality, credible sources, and then you'll learn how to incorporate them into your speech a little as well. That'll be critical in your speeches. And the other is starting to work with an outline. You'll read about in the text about how do you outline a speech, which really will help with your structure once you actually get to giving the speech. So you'll be doing that with your intro and your conclusion for your first informative speech. So that's kind of the main goals. The 2 concepts, sources and outline, are kind of the main things you're going to learn about this week. Initially, you got several reading materials. There's a chapter from the book. Make sure you go over that. But then there's video and presentation and different things about the importance of citing sources, how you avoid plagiarism and cheating, and how you cite and everything like that. So that'll take a little while to go through here. So make sure I'd start this stuff really early in the week, like today, so you have time to do your other work later in the week. So that's the first thing that you'll be doing here. If you already looked at this week before I was able to make some edits this morning, you'll have seen several references to RefWorks. And I've removed those, and I'll talk about it a little bit later, but just in case you're noticing any differences here. So you're starting on this first speech, this first informative speech. You're working on the outline of your first informative speech. And it's just good to keep in mind how the eventual one will be graded. So in week 5, this is how your initial speech is going to be graded on these different points. So I'll try to give you a more complete rubric before you actually give the speech, so you know how it'll be graded. That just kind of gives you a little bit of a heads up in that area of, I always want the expectations to be clear to you going in. So you'll have your reading quiz, which is always open book, just like, hopefully some of this is starting to become, I guess, a little bit more familiar to you than maybe previously you've done. So you've got your reading quiz, which is open book. It's just making sure you're getting the key pieces from the reading. And the next thing you've got here is, so all those materials you went through. So this has been a little confusing some past semesters, but everything that was listed in objectives and preparations, so there's videos, there's chapters in the book, there's a PowerPoint presentation. You're going to go through all those materials, and then on this group discussion board, you're going to post what you thought maybe the video was the most helpful or a chapter in the book was most helpful, just to kind of explain which was the most helpful resource and why. So it's not a heavy one. You get credit if you do it by the due date, but that's just what you'll post. Is kind of what you found to be the most helpful as you do that. So you'll just jump on. You'll notice you're starting to be in small groups now. So instead of the whole class being on the same discussion board, you'll be with a group of usually 4 to 5 other people. Next up is intro and conclusion outline. So this is just kind of taking you through the steps a little bit of doing a speech. And so this one what you'll be doing is kind of outlining the beginning of your speech and the end of your speech. And in the book, and make sure you refer to the book, it has an example of a full sentence outline. So kind of give you an idea of what an outline looks like, and then you're going to create one for your intro and your conclusion. Next week, I believe, you'll do an outline for the full speech. But this week, is just getting you started on how do you write an outline. And I know it can be a little annoying at first, but I promise it'll be very helpful organizing your thoughts and your speech as you go. Just make sure, so kind of 2 steps. So in your small group, you're going to first post yours, so your outline, and then you're going to go review everyone else in your group, and you're going to give them feedback on these 3 things. So basically, did it meet the criteria that was outlined? What makes a good introduction? What does the conclusion bring in new material? What kind of conclusion was used? So just kind of analyzing a little bit, but also make sure your criteria meets this before you do your own. So you want to make it as good as possible. I understand this is your first time through, you're just learning, practicing, but the more effort you put into it early on, it's going to pay dividends as you're starting to do the full speech as you go. So this is where you'll start your new thread in each of your groups. It's really important everyone in the group participates, because if you don't, your group members are waiting for your material so they can review it, so they can finish their assignments. So just make sure you check the calendar, you know all the due dates on this as we go. Finally, the last thing you're going to do is a source assignment. So whatever topic you're choosing for this informative speech, you need to go find 5 credible sources, and those links and the articles you'll read will teach you how to do that, how to find a good source. But make sure they're good, credible sources, and then you're going to create a bibliography. And the way this course was originally designed by the designers had you all going to RefWorks, but all the information was outdated. RefWorks changed their interface, and so it wasn't that helpful. So I removed the requirement that you have to use RefWorks. If you want to, if you go over to the library's website, you'll see sign into RefWorks. There's some tutorials. It's not too complicated. Learn how to use RefWorks. But I'm fine with you using any kind of bibliography generator or just using a manual and knowing how to do it. It doesn't need to be an MLA format. So just make sure whatever you're using that it's in correct format. But put it in Word, 5 sources, properly cited, MLA format, and then you'll upload it in the next assignment. Once again, I'm going to stress that a lot. People give great speeches, but they never cite anybody else, and so their credibility really dives, and it hurts their grade quite a bit. So I really want you to take the source assignment seriously. So once you've uploaded that, I believe the only thing left in this week is the participation quiz, which you should be used to. So anyways, I know it's a lot of stuff, it's a lot of steps, but nothing is too big by itself. We'll switch in future weeks where you're doing an entire speech. That's going to be all the focus. This is more little bits that are getting you ready to do it. So as you go through that, please let me know if anything's unclear, and I'm happy to help you out.